In a Car with IPR is a new series by the Institute for Public Relations where we talk to industry leaders to find out what makes them tick, discuss research, and ask them to look into their crystal ball to see what's in store for us.
I'm Tina McCorkindale, and I'm with my guest, Marcia DiStaso, who is the chair of the Department of Public Relations at the University of Florida. So we're in Gainesville, and she's also the director of our Digital Media Research Center. And we are still not in a car, but we are in a golf cart, and it's pouring rain. Pouring rain, which is not what the Sunshine State should be.
No, but it often is. So it's not that abnormal.
And we're driving around where?
The stadium. We are in the stadium where the fantastic Gators play.
Yes.
I don't know.
So we're just driving up and down the ramp. So last year, the DMRC released a study at IPR, and it was the science of influence.
Yes.
Right? And looking at influence in social media in 4 industries.
Correct.
Can you name those industries?
Can I name those industries?
We
had financial services, travel, and tourism, and healthcare and retail.
Oh, that was good.
Yes, thank you.
So what were some of the findings within that study? Do you remember? I know that was like in October.
Yes, it was a while ago. Well, some of the findings are influence is a big deal in social media, broadly speaking, right? We know organizations pay a lot of attention to it. We know that the public is sensitive to being influenced on a variety of topics through a variety of different outlets and different sources. The silent generation, the oldest group, they were seeking advice and receiving or being more influenced in healthcare. Right?
Yeah.
And then the baby boomers, it was more financial services for seeking advice and being influenced. And then travel and tourism was pretty comparable, I think.
That's right.
And then retail really wasn't where people were turning to as much for seeking advice as well as being influenced. So those typical grocery store purchases, people aren't really looking to social media for insight.
But I do remember that retail, like promotions, were very influential into their
so coupons,
decisions
yes.
to influence.
Yep.
Okay, so you've been at the chair of this department. You just finished your 2nd year, about to start your 3rd year. Tell us a little bit about Gainesville and the department and the college.
Let's see. Well, we could talk about that for a long time. To kind of get to the point, we have, let's see, Gainesville is a fantastic college town. It's a little bit bigger than some of the other college towns, so we have a lot of everything here. Our campus is pretty large. We have, I think, around 52,000 students at the University of Florida, or over 52,000. So big. In our program, we're one of the largest standalone public relations departments in the country. We have, 780 students at the undergraduate level in public relations. So really big. We also have a master's, a theory master's, a professional master's, and a Ph.D. that students can get here.
Great, and we at IPR, because IPR is based here,
Right next door.
you could put your head against, or their ear against the office. I'm sure no, it's nothing too much exciting. But we have a lot of the students, both undergrad and grad, who work for us, and that we pay. No unpaid, exactly. IPR recently released a study on disinformation. I'm sure you read it, which you did actually, because you texted me. And so we look specifically at disinformation, which is deliberately misleading or false information, not just erroneous information, but specifically misleading. And what we found is that the Americans believe that disinformation is a significant problem in the U.S., as significant as terrorism, gun violence. And then we also asked about we looked at differences between Republicans and Democrats and what sources they trust and who they think is responsible for spreading disinformation, who should be responsible for combating it, and how well people are doing. You and a couple of your colleagues recently published a study in the JMCQ, which is one of the toughest journals to get into in the whole communication field. That's a fair statement?
One of them.
One of them. Yes, there's a couple.
Yep.
They're one of the top tiered journals. So you published an article about the politicization of fake news on Twitter. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that research?
Sure. So in that study, my colleagues and I looked at Twitter content, and we did a network analysis to see who was talking about fake news. Now, this isn't the disinformation that you're talking about. This is simply the term fake news, right? So we didn't check to see if what they were saying was fake news. Instead, we looked to see who was talking to who about the term fake news, and then tried to get some context around what that term meant. And what we found was that both Republicans and Democrats were using the term fake news to talk poorly about the other's content, right? So they would say, so-and-so said this, it was fake news. Not that it was truly fake news or disinformation or misinformation or any of the other terminology. It was primarily used as a derogatory term to insult or discount someone else on the other viewpoint.
Interesting, and that's one of the reasons why in our study we did not use the term fake news, because people are not using it as something that's actually false. IPR launched a study on the future of work through our one of our centers of excellence, the Organizational Communication Research Center. And what we did is we interviewed a bunch of internal communicators to find out what they see as changes to the future of work. So how different generations will impact the future of work, and how automation, artificial intelligence, technology in general, brand reputation, and how that will impact the organization and the enterprise. What do you see, if you had a crystal ball, what do you see as the future of the industry, what we need to be concerned with, and what sort of opportunities and challenges we have with that as well?
Well, I think you highlighted a lot of the important issues of what's to come. I think automation is certainly probably one of the biggest things on the forefront. While we're currently automating a lot of our work, I think there's going to be greater opportunity to automate more, both in the public relations departments as well as in organizations overall. And we know as soon as we start changing the way the workforce looks, we'll be in higher need of communication. I also think that depending on how the economy goes, we may be stretched in ways that we haven't seen in recent years. So I think that can be an add to some of the challenges that we'll face as communicators. And we're looking at, and the research might show this, we don't have a clear path for some of our areas of expertise. For example, social media. We have a lot of students at the University of Florida that graduate and go out and start work in social media. We don't know what that career path looks like. We're looking at doing some research in that. But we should be able to identify other ways and other things that those students and professionals can do beyond communicating via social media.
Okay, what's the best advice you've ever been given? You don't have to tell people it's from me, but what's the best advice you've ever been given?
The best advice I have ever been given, and there's a lot. I would say professional advice, it helps in all aspects of life, though, would be not to rationalize irrational behavior.
That actually is mine. Yes.
You may have influenced by teaching me that, but I have truly shared that with many.
So earlier we talked about the influence study that we did a couple years ago, looking at how social media influences decision making with retail, healthcare, travel, and financial. I'm very proud of myself. The financial industry, and we are still getting so much traction from that study. It's one of our most downloaded studies on the Institute for PR website. So why don't you tell us sort of what we're doing next in that area?
So, well, because that study has been so well received, we are actually going to do a version very similar with an Asian population. So we'll be conducting to see the influence of social media in Asia, and we'll have that as a standalone article. We may be able to compare to the United States and see what the differences are there. And then we're open to ideas, so we may roll that out to other countries as well. Another study that I do think is really cool that we have going on with the Digital Media Research Center is we're looking at the social media career progression and the salaries for social media. We're also looking at those and talking about some cybersecurity research.
So in this part of the discussion, I've ripped it off from James Lipton inside the Actors Studio. And James Lipton is still alive. He's 93 years old. And so do you remember his show Inside the Actors Studio?
I do.
Yeah, and he would bring people on for an hour and ask them a bunch of questions. And the end of the episode, he would ask them questions, just very random questions, and it really was sort of to get to know him better. But I did modify them because I felt like some were important. So please answer this as honestly as possible, because I'll know I'm a truth detector. What is your least favorite word?
Well, I don't like in my house, we're not allowed to say jerk or hate or stupid or crazy. I just don't like any of those sort of negative words. I think those bother me more than maybe they should because they're kind of everyday words, but I feel like we can use other words that are a little nicer.
What's your favorite book?
I have to say all of the Harry Potter books, especially the first book. I read them all with my children, and we've really worked to kind of memorize them.
So what profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Oh, I always say I would like to be a math professor. I think that looks like so much fun. There's an answer. There's an answer, but it's really easy, and you get to do math all day, and I love math.
So you're involved with IPR. How long have you been a trustee with IPR? It's been like 4 years,
maybe something like that.
4 years.
But I've been involved for a long time.
Yes, because you were working on when it was Social Science, Social Media Research Center.
Right.
From its inception.
Yes.
Which I think that was at least like 5 years ago, maybe.
At least, maybe more.
Yeah, maybe 6 or so. So what is your favorite things about IPR? Why are you a member of the organization? This is very self-promotional, but tell me why you're a trustee and involved. Because you're involved in a lot of great industry groups. Right. But what is it about IPR?
Well, I think there's quite a few things about IPR that I like, and I have liked all the way along, but in the past few years, all of the changes, all the research is really impacting the profession. Getting an opportunity to be a part of that research is fantastic. The networking with the other trustees and the other folks that are involved with the Institute is another great opportunity that I really appreciate. And I get to be a part of the conversations to find out what's important to people, what research would make a difference in what they're doing, and asking them and talking to them about it, and then helping to execute that research is just fantastic. As an educator, it's important to me to be kind of on the hot now topics, but also as a professional to be a part of these conversations and really helping improve our profession is great. So I think that IPR is doing exactly what the industry needs, and I'm really proud to be a part of it.
Nice. So any parting words before we wrap it up in front of the giant french fries?
Well, thank you for having me not in a car with IPR.
You're very welcome. We do our best to not deliver. So thank you all. Thanks, Marcia, for speaking with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So thanks.
Thank you for watching this episode of In a Car with IPR. Want to make a tax-deductible contribution to support this series and fund research in the profession? Please visit us at instituteforpr.org/contribute.